everyone. My name is Davina San, and I'm a student here at Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, Florida. With me is Dr. Lane Cohey, and we are so excited to share with you guys the new book that he wrote, which is The Disquieted Soul. And here's our Q&A. We end our way on the V in chapter 6. We get to the last of the discovery phase, so we investigate the human paradox. You call this chapter the human paradox. What is this paradox?
Well, the paradox is we have to go back to the identity needs that we talked about earlier, the way that God designed us, kind of how we come out of the box, if you will. Needs to feel meaningful, needs to feel valued, needs to feel significant, needs to make a difference, needs to be secure and to be safe, to be loved and to love others. And these are very, very powerful identity needs, and it's the way in which we were designed. But how do we often feel? Not always, but how do we often feel? Often meaningless, often worthless, often insecure, often powerless, often unloved, and often unlovely. And that's the human paradox. The issue is that we enter into the world with these very powerful identity needs, but meeting them is beyond our grasp in ourselves.
And you think the human paradox demonstrates that we're not born okay the first time?
Right, and that's a phrase, obviously, is kind of a little snarky twist on being born again, right? We're born okay the first time. I think some people would like us to believe that, but I don't think that it really bears out. I don't think the human paradox bears that out. If it did, we would have a very straight shot at being able to have our identity needs met. We'd know exactly how to do it, and we'd be much more successful at doing it. If it were true, I don't think we'd have a fraction of the self-help literature that's out there that we buy into. The truth is, the Bible explains that this identity problem exists, and it explains why the identity problem exists. We were born into this world with these needs, but in the fall we're deeply deformed, like a gnarled, twisted tree. You can see what that tree was designed to be, but it's gnarled and twisted. And the issue is that the beauty and the form that we were intended for, that beauty and form has been replaced with ugly deformity, and that's what has to get fixed.
You conclude this chapter with a section called futility. This kind of sounds depressing. Why did you end on this note?
Well, we do have to be honest about the disease if we're going to find the cure. And disquiet is born out of shame and pride, but shame and pride both have really their origins in a flawed sense of self. Shame sees itself for being defective and wants to hide in the shadows. Pride sees our creator, if you will, and wants to supplant itself, and neither one of those work. And so we find ourselves in futility, kind of a chasing after the wind, or the vanity of vanities that the book of Ecclesiastes talks about. And so, we chase things for a little while, maybe amongst the driven, or chase, our cruel masters and fall in and out of love, or pursuits here and there, and we get some temporary satisfaction. It's not like we don't, but we endlessly continue to cycle, and it becomes a point in which it's somewhat futile. And it's futile because whether our names are captured in history books, or whether they're written on a bunch of monuments or halls or whatever, we could talk about the legacy all that we like, but we never solve the human paradox within ourselves. We don't solve it within ourselves, and so we're always struggling with this, if we're honest, with this desperate sense of emptiness. We don't talk about it a lot, right? We find ways to cover it up, we mock it even, but it's there, and the human paradox remains, and so we can't solve it. We can't solve it within ourselves because the answer lies outside of ourselves, and that's when we start going up the V.